Over 300,000 people have become obsessed with extreme day trips, a way to see more of the world for a fraction of the price. But what exactly is an extreme day trip?
An extreme day trip is a journey that involves travelling to a destination and returning home in a single day.
But we've been wondering, how extreme can a day trip really be?
This week we'll be testing back-to-back extreme day trips, and every time the flight will get longer and longer.
Finishing with a day trip so extreme, we're not even sure it's possible.
Do extreme day trips actually save you money? And do they give you enough time to see the city you're visiting? Or will we miss our flight and get stranded in a foreign country? Let's find out.
We are through security and we're gonna go and get a coffee, and then we'll explain exactly what our plan is for today. The plan for today is simple. We are flying to another country and then we are flying back in the same day. Both our flights today are with Ryanair, and the first one is this morning and it leaves at 8:05. Our flight home is at 21:55. So we are flying to Alicante in Spain today, and then from there we're gonna try and head all the way to the beautiful Benidorm.
Having flown over 1,000-mile return to Iceland just yesterday, racking up a flight time of 2 hours and 15 minutes each way, today we needed to find somewhere even further from home.
The flight to Spain takes about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
But there is a lengthy transfer from landing in Alicante to getting ourselves across into Benidorm, so you might need to wish us luck for that one.
Are we gonna make this flight?
Not only was Benidorm further away, but it was also cheaper to get there.
Our outbound flight cost £60 and our return flight cost £30. So in total, we're looking at £90 per person for this day trip.
And there was one final difference between Iceland and Benidorm that sealed the deal on our decision.
I'm also just excited to get some sun. I actually feel like I'm going to feel energised after today. My main priority really is the sun. So we have found a group on Facebook called Extreme Day Trips. There are hundreds of thousands of people in these groups that head off all the time on day trips to different destinations all around Europe. And for the most part, they're doing it for pretty cheap, I would say.
It's also a good source of inspiration and a great place to find cheap flights. £65 return flights to Madrid. Someone's flying to Cork for £14 return. How is that even possible? So you can post the extreme day trip you're doing, and then people will comment back and say that they're doing it as well, and you can meet up along the way. Hi everyone, is anyone else doing an e.d.t to Alicante at 8:05 today? Oh, it's already got a like. That's a good sign. We will keep you posted about whether anyone likes this or comments back, and hopefully we meet someone along the way. Okay, we are heading to the gate now. And something I'm really interested in is how much is this gonna cost and how much money are we gonna save, because the primary reason for doing an extreme day trip is to keep the cost down.
An average 3-day trip to Benidorm will cost around £350 per person. So we're going to see if not having to book a hotel and compromising on time in destination can save us 50% versus an average 3-day trip. Let us know in the comments if you think it's possible. And also, where's the furthest place you've ever done an extreme day trip to?
It is very important to keep your eyes peeled for EDTers. The way to spot them is they'll be travelling extremely light with a very, very small bag, if any bag at all.
What bag have you got with you?
I've just got this very small square bag. I'm not carrying much with me, just some headphones for the plane and a passport. But at the minute, I can't see any. But it's usually very easy to spot an EDT in the wild.
All right, we're about to board the flight, and it is the perfect time to tell you exactly why we're doing this.
Extreme day trips make travelling cheaper because there's no need to book a hotel. But it's not all about money.
Not everyone is in a position to pack up their bags and leave life behind for a long weekend. People rely on us and we have responsibilities.
Do you remember to feed the fish?
We recently welcomed 2 new additions to our family.
It's a proud day.
Meet Easy and Jet. They need feeding twice a day. So if we don't get back within 24 hours, there could be some severe consequences. But that's not even worth thinking about. So let's get back to the flight.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.
Adios. We have made it to sunny Spain. We are here.
It even like
smells sunny.
Yeah, it smells like Spain. Okay, it's 12:15 now and we've just got through security. We're a little bit up against it.
We've got in a bit later than I thought we would.
The next thing we need to do is try and find a way from Alicante Airport to Benidorm. I think Uber exists here, so that's going to be what we try and do now.
We landed 20 minutes ago and we were already through passport control, and we were just about to order an Uber and we found out that it costs €100.
It's 15 minutes away and it's extremely expensive.
So we're looking at other options now. There's a shuttle bus, but the issue is that that doesn't arrive for another 40 minutes, and then we'll be on that for an hour and 5 minutes. Because we're only here for a day, are we cutting it too fine? And the other option is a tram, but that's not really an option because that takes 1 hour and 50 minutes. So it's either a bus or an Uber. We need to just decide.
But that is one of the limitations of extreme day trips. Every hour counts, and any time spent traveling to the destination comes out of our time actually in Benidorm. But to figure out exactly how much time we get in each of our 3 destinations this week, we had a plan.
We've now stepped out of the airport, so it's time to start the timer. We do not have much time here, so we need to get to Benidorm as quickly as we can.
But whilst we were playing with the timer, our Uber wasn't connecting.
See if they even confirm. So our options are a little limited because Uber's off the cards. The bus isn't until 40 minutes and it takes over an hour on the bus. So I think our only realistic option for this extreme day trip is getting a taxi to Benidorm, and nothing scares me more than
metered airport taxis.
The loan sharks themselves, the taxi drivers at the airport. We'll ask him how much it costs. Hola, Benidorm?
Yes.
Okay. How much?
At this point, we were scared that the costs of our budget-friendly trip were spiralling out of control before we'd even got there.
How long to Benidorm, you think? 49 minutes. 49 minutes, not too bad.
But we had no time to waste on worrying, because we were trying to squeeze a 3-day trip into 1 day.
And that meant we had 6 life-changing moments to tick off before we headed back to the airport.
And as we got closer to life-changing moment number 1, the airport taxi gods were looking down on us.
I take back what I said, the mean things that I said about taxi drivers in airports. He was a lovely man. The taxi actually cost €90 in the end, which was cheaper than what we were getting quoted on Uber. Uber isn't even cheaper or easier to get here. The most crucial element of an extreme day trip is time. So there's absolutely no room for messing around and faffing.
And we've decided that instead of starting in the heart of Benidorm, we have come to a viewpoint. It's actually pretty impressive.
It's actually described as a Mediterranean Manhattan. And I was a little bit skeptical about that, but actually looking at the view, I kind of get where they're coming from.
Anyway, there is a cross at the top of this hill, so we're going to head up there now. That's the highest point. One thing is for sure, jackets have come straight off. It is pretty surreal up here. This morning I woke up in a rainy Manchester, and a few hours later we're stood here with such a beautiful view of Benidorm.
Over here we've got the main Benidorm beach, and this is the Benidorm town, the new town, and then in the real distance is the old town. I associate Benidorm with being quite crazy and raucous and loads of stuff going on, but up here it's very tranquil, very serene, very peaceful, and it's actually quite a beautiful place when you take a step back. Over 800,000 British people every year come to Benidorm, but only 70,000 people actually live here permanently. So this place is a tourist hotspot, and it actually became famous in the 1950s when package holidays were all the rage.
Now that we're up here, I kind of get what people are saying when they call it the Manhattan of the Mediterranean. It's so high rise. Let's put a picture of New York and Benidorm together, and then you say if you think they look similar.
Anyway, this is a great starting point for our extreme day trip. However, we have a checklist as long as your arm that we need to complete today.
And there isn't that much time, so it's time to get started and ticking those off.
Because we're trying to cram a 3-day trip into a single day. So let's get going.
We believe you can have life-changing moments in a new country within just a few hours, and our first stop at the Viewpoint was a good example.
But there was plenty more on the horizon. But first, we needed to work up an appetite.
Absolutely, yes, we did cheat on the way up, but we are walking the way down. And that is going to build up an appetite for the next thing on our checklist, which is getting something traditionally Spanish to eat, which actually might be harder than it sounds because we are in Spain, but we're in Little Britain, Spain.
We have done some Googling for the best paella in Benidorm, and a place called Roman has come up, so we're about to go and check that out. It is right on the beachfront. This is the sea behind me, and the paella place is there. To me, this is the most important. We can't come to Benidorm and not have the national dish.
Maybe I'm just being a little bit dense, but I thought the national dish of Spain was tapas, but it is actually paella. And now I think about it, tapas isn't actually it's like a type of food, isn't it? As opposed to being an actual dish.
Yeah.
We're learning as we're traveling, so it's great. Let's see what it's like. I don't like seafood, so we've gone for a vegetable paella, and it looks pretty decent, but it is enormous. There's no way we're going to be able to finish this. Also, it took a little while to come out, so this has pushed us back. We have a lot to do today, and paella is only one of those things. We should be mañana, we should be chilling, but we're not. We're on a mission.
Very fresh, very Spanish, very extreme day trip.
We also got some traditional Spanish French fries. We are fed and watered now, and we've got a new lease of life. I would recommend Roman. It was actually delicious, and the service was good, albeit a little slow, which is fine ordinarily, but we are on a mission today, so time is of the essence. So we now need to go and find something else to do in Benidorm, and I've got something in mind which is quintessentially Benidorian, but I don't know if it's actually going to be possible, so let's go and see. Item number 3 from the checklist incoming. So what I wanted to do today was rent a mobility scooter, because everyone has them in Benidorm, and it'd be cool to whip around the beach on one of those. It makes things easier to get around. However, we went into a mobility scooter hire place, and what I didn't anticipate was that they only rent them to people over the age of 55. And I did claim that I just looked young for my age, but he wasn't having it at all. So this might be harder than I first thought, but we're going to try a few more places, see if they'll let us rent one. I am a responsible adult. I'm not on like a stag do. I don't know. I'm going to play to their good nature, see if they'll let me one.
A man on a mission.
After trying a few more places,
Mobility scooter rental, is that, do you have to be a certain age to do that?
Yeah, 55 years old.
it was clear my English charm wasn't working on the Spanish locals.
That place behind me said no. Butterfields. You're missing out, Butterfields. I've got cold, hard readies for you, but you just didn't want them.
Each place we went to, momentum started to wane, which meant we had to make a tough decision.
Reluctantly, I think we're going to have to call it a day on the mobility scooter front and move on. If we waste too much more time trying to get one of these scooters, we're not going to have time to do anything else. So onwards and upwards, let's go and tick another thing off the checklist. And yeah, we'll call that an L for today. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I've said it once before and I'll say it again. Benidorm is beautiful. I understand why this place became so popular and why it continues to be so popular with British people. It's everything that a British person is looking for in the winter months. Look at that crazy beach.
We're about to do something very important now. We're on the hunt for the cheapest pint in Benidorm, and we've been told that Uncle Ped's is a place that we will find that. Everywhere that we've gone past has been so affordable, so I'm quite intrigued to see how cheap this pint really is.
Because that's one of the main reasons people come here, is for cheap booze. So let's get involved.
Wow, look how strong them vodkas are. $1.50 for a wicked is actually so cheap. So this whole place is Mr. Ted's.
Bon anniversaire. We're inside Uncle Ped's and it has delivered. It's also a burger bar shouting out numbers. The jewel in the crown is a pint of Amstel, which is just €1.50. If you were in London, you wouldn't be able to get a pint for less than a £5. And here, we're knocking on the door of £1, 20% of the price of a beer in London.
It isn't just cheap pints. Tequila is €2, tequila strawberry, tequila mango, tequila melon. They have €1.50 WKDs. Considering how cheap the pints are, there's not that many people in here. So there's actually another bar across the road which is packed, but it is in the sun. I'm wondering if they make the prices cheaper here to distract from the fact that there's no sun. But maybe that changes in the summer, I don't know, but it is a bit chilly here and they look pretty warm over there.
As we're here in Peds, reminiscing about the past, it reminded me of a core memory that I have. I came to Benidorm about 15 or so years ago, and I went on a Segway tour of Benidorm. And unbeknownst to me, when I arrived, I was actually in a promo video shoot for the Segway company. If you Google Benidorm Segway tours and go onto Google Images, my face will appear. So I like to say that I am the face of Benidorm Segways. It's one of my few claims to fame. And it's one of the main reasons Jade fell for me, I think. When I dropped that into a conversation, it's hard to resist. Uncle Ped's pints are going to the head. Oh, I'm going to say it now. We could have called off the extreme day trip. I think we should just live here. Let's emigrate to Benidorm.
After a few stern words, I managed to prise Ryan away from Uncle Ped's.
I love places like that. It was great value, great vibes.
And I reminded him that this was just extreme day trip number 2, and that we couldn't emigrate here because we were doing this all again tomorrow.
Woohoo!
And besides, we had more life-changing moments to chase in the old town.
There are 2 parts to Benidorm. There is the new town, which is filled with all of the bars, all the things that you might associate with Benidorm tend to be there. And then there is another side to Benidorm called the old town, which is meant to be more Spanish and more traditional.
We're now in the heart of the old town at a tapas restaurant. Jade is just filling out the tapas order. I've got what looks like a pint of sangria here, and we've ordered a couple of bits of tapas.
I love a croquette, and croquettes are Spanish. What I don't get about these, why do they come on the piece of bread? Am I meant to eat it with the bread?
We have eaten well today, so we only have about an hour and a half left here in Benidorm before we need to get going back to the airport to catch our flight home. But I think we have time to squeeze in one more Benidorm essential. We are pushing our luck though. I feel like it's a crime to come to Benidorm and not see some sort of tribute act. So Jade is now frantically researching where we can go and see some sort of live cabaret act. I'm talking Ed Sheeran, I'm talking Adele, Lionel Richie, Westlife, anything at this point will do. Is it possible in the time frame? I am not sure, but we are going to try.
We are now getting to the point in the extreme day trip where starting to feel a little bit tired, but we only have 1 hour left. And we're going to max out this hour, and we've got a really exciting show to go and see. I'm calling it a show because that's what it is, a tribute act.
And it's a 25-minute walk away in the wrong direction of the airport. So we are playing with fire here. Not only could we miss our flight, but we also could end up seeing a terrible live performance.
No way.
We're now on the Benidorm Strip. Obviously, Benidorm doesn't really get going until a little bit later, but we have to leave a little bit later, so we're gonna have to make do with whatever is on now. The dregs of the cabaret world are gonna be on at this graveyard time. I mean, it looks pretty good. It looks like a poor man's Las Vegas. Let's see what the Western Saloon has in store for us.
Right, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand by, fasten your seatbelts. Benidorm's premiere to the big, sexy roller! One, two, three, four.
The Western Saloon was an experience, and I'm glad that we've ticked that off the bucket list. To be honest though, the Bay City Rollers are a little bit before my time, and I have no idea what any of those songs were. However, those guys were rocking it, but we have now cut it very fine, and we need to get back to the airport. So we need to find a taxi or an Uber or a bus to get us there. We've been waiting for the Uber driver now for about 15 minutes and he's just nowhere to be seen. This time it says it's going to cost 83 euros back to the airport, which is still pretty pricey. Is that him? No. It says that he's here on the app, but he's not here. Every minute this Uber driver doesn't show up is a minute closer to missing this flight. Hola. Hello? Hello? Hola? Hola?
The reception.
You're at the reception?
Yeah, but outside.
This confusion with the Uber driver had given us a real problem.
Alicante Airport, please, boss.
Our flight was taking off in 1 hour and 45 minutes, and we still needed to get to the airport.
How long do you think it takes from here?
40 minutes.
We were heading there as fast as possible, but then we thought back to some wisdom that Jade had said earlier.
You actually kind of hope your flight might be delayed.
When we checked flight radar, it looked like we had a 30-minute delay on our flight home, which meant...
Hasta luego.
We're back at the airport. We're about to head through to catch our flight, but first, I want to check the timer and see how long we had. So from leaving the airport this morning to arriving back, we've had 7 hours and 13 minutes. Let's go and catch our flight.
Back at the airport, we worked out how much we'd spent versus our budget. We'd squeezed in as much as we could during the day, and our total spend came to £248, which compared to an average 3-day trip is 30% less. Even though we'd come in considerably over our budget, we were getting excited about our third and final extreme day trip.
I now want to stress test extreme day trips and see how far we can take them. How far away from the UK can you go and still get back in the same day? And I don't have long to wait because tomorrow we will be going on another extreme day trip. So it's going to be another early morning, another late night.
But before that, there was a far more pressing issue at hand.
We need to make sure the fish are okay.
Do you reckon the fish will be okay?
Yeah, of course.
I hope so. Easy and Jet have just been swimming around all day whilst we've been in Benidorm. Goodbye, Spain. Amazing, thank you, babe, appreciate that. Okay, we have made it back just before the stroke of midnight. Wow. And the weather is very different here in Manchester. Hello, mate.
Ryan, yeah?
Yeah, for Ryan, yeah. They're okay. We're back, we're home, reunited. The time is now 10 to 1. So we've got a good few hours sleep before we head on our next extreme day trip, which is in